Bitcoin breaks 40K and stays in the $44,000 range. Why, we ask ourselves. Is it because banks continue their foray into the crypto market? Or is airdrop season back? We discuss all of this right here and now in Collective Shift's weekly recap. Actionable insights and a breakdown into the crypto market, all in under 30 minutes just for you. As always, we'll start with the market update with our head of research, Matt, followed by the crazy Bitcoin price. So Matt, what's happening with the markets? We're hitting good prices at the moment.
Yeah, we sure are. It just keeps on going higher with Bitcoin has just this morning recorded its eighth weekly gain in a row. So that's the first time that has happened in a number of years as well. Then the market has all lifted at the same time. Once again, we're seeing Bitcoin dominance really hold up strongly. So for those who are a bit newer to crypto, Bitcoin dominance is just tracks the percentage. What does the Bitcoin market cap represent as a percentage of the market cap of all the cryptocurrencies combined? They actually ticked up to 55% for the first time again in a number of years last week. So Bitcoin really leading this rally, or continues to lead this rally, and is continuing to see a bit of outperformance, particularly in the Solana ecosystem. So the Sol token is up again, up to about $75, which it hasn't been for quite a while. And also Solana sort of, I guess, ecosystem tokens are also continuing to outperform. So yeah, another green week in the market, and yeah, really finishing the year strongly.
Oh, that sounds good, man. And this is part of the discussion we'll have today is about the Solana ecosystem and maybe airdrop season as well. But let's bring it back to the bigger picture in crypto and Bitcoin itself, right? So Bitcoin has actually been gone past 40K. It's been very strong. It's been rallying past that. It's around the $44,000 mark. So my question, and this we'll have a small discussion on this, is do you think this will last, right? Let's have a look at some of the catalysts that are coming up for Bitcoin and just general thoughts, what you guys think. So Nick, you tell me first, do you think it'll last so far at 44K?
I think it's all relative, I guess. When you talk about like, will it last? Inevitably, whenever there are pullbacks will happen, whether there's some weird piece of news that comes out, whether it's a delay in the ETF. So in the short term, I think, it's hard to say how sustainable it is in the next couple of months, but into next year, I'm really positive, for Bitcoin. So just looking ahead in the medium term anyway, that next, 1.5 years, 1 year time frame, like lower than short term. I'm just really excited about all the stuff that's being developed with Bitcoin, whether it's Lightning Network development from big companies and really big traditional financial players to even things like the environmental narrative. I'm seeing lots of, there was a lot of FUD in 2021, with people talking about the Bitcoin's environmental impact. We're actually seeing a lot of studies being done and a lot of really interesting groundwork that's kind of shifting this narrative to saying, hey, Bitcoin is actually something that can be a positive rather than it was a negative. And then we're even going to see possibly things like whether Bitcoin payments get turned on with things like Tesla. And I can imagine that's going to be a really big, everyone loves the big, Tesla Bitcoin story, which will drive the market inevitably. So just a lot to like with Bitcoin, even if we zoom out and look at the macro environment, we find ourselves in, it's pretty much poised for Bitcoin to really be a strong performer in the next couple of years, especially if we see rates start to drop. So a lot to like in my mind, but short term as always, I think it's at 160% year to date. So, any small, correction will probably be pretty healthy.
Yeah, I love that, Nick. Sorry, you zoom out, look at the bigger picture, see what is happening around the world. And when you said that Bitcoin changing narratives in the environment, I got reminded of that recent FUD of one Bitcoin transaction taking up a whole swimming pool's worth of water. And I was like, guys, come on. Like, we've been there before. First was carbon dioxide, then it was electricity, and now it's using a lot of water, and all of it, it changes every so often. So Matt, let's go to you, man. What do you think is happening with the Bitcoin price right now? 44K. Not will it last, but what are your short and long-term kind of outlooks on this?
Yeah, I've been very encouraged by just, I think, as I've said in recent podcasts, just how the price has just been able to find new levels of support. And, when it hit to that 30,000s, I was, expecting, a bit of a pause or even a pullback towards the early 30,000s, but we just kept going higher. Really a signal that, the people who are holding Bitcoin continue to want to hold it for a long time. All of the on-chain analytics are pointing to that same sort of behavior. So yeah, I think we do hold these 40,000 levels. We may have a temporary sort of wick down into the 30,000s. But given what we've seen in the past couple of months, I would expect any extreme or any significant dip to be like heavily bought into. And that is just a reminder of, all the bull markets in crypto's history, really. They've been in and amongst those bull markets. You tend to see 20, 30, sometimes even 40% retracements in the price of Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and then in and around a prolonged bull market. And that's something that can scare a lot of people by holding cryptocurrencies, but it's something that you typically see a lot of first cyclers really sell out when that initial panic starts to set in. But you've always got to step back and ask yourself, what is my long-term view of this market? And are we are we currently in a bull market? If so, what stage of the bull market? I think all of us agree it would be early stages. So when that retracement does come, it will come eventually, maybe 20%, 30%. I definitely personally will be looking to, buy even more. So short-term outlook, the biggest red flag or just risk at the moment worth mentioning is just an ETF, denial of the ARK 21 shares joint Bitcoin ETF. That would really send markets downward. I still expect the SEC to approve all of the ETFs in early January, but just be mindful that a denial of that ARK one would, really spook the markets in the short term.
Yeah, so that may be the biggest blow there. But at the end of the day, as we said, if you zoom out, you look at your goals at the end of the day, Bitcoin is one of the best performing assets in the world. I mean, even this year, I don't know how much, up 100% at least, I would say this year. But anyway, let's move on a bit. So I try and keep it very simple when it comes to Bitcoin pricing. We have diminishing supply on the exchanges. And so there's just generally less out there for people. With the Bitcoin halving coming up, people are thinking about this, okay? And then demand goes up because there's less of it. People want more. People are still dollar cost averaging. So all of a sudden, yes, there's just less supply, more demand, price goes up. So I just try to keep it very simple for myself.
We're also looking at price action as well. If you look at 2019, you had a really big run up in that market, and then so we always have these run ups, and then things inevitably
something cools down.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm talked about last week. I'm definitely pretty excited about the ETF as well. Even if it does get approved, a lot of people think it's going to be sell the news. I'm actually definitely in the camp of buy the news, actually, and buy the rumor. So really, really keen to see how this plays out, because I've been seeing a lot of people talk about how priced in it is, which actually makes me then think if everyone thinks it's so priced in, is it really
contrarian?
So that's actually something that I'm really thinking about strongly, because I think people are actually underestimating, just the legitimacy that ETF spot brings to Bitcoin, because it is really a landmark moment for Bitcoin when it does get approved, which is inevitably, whether it's, I think, in 1 year, whether it's in 6 weeks. So really keen to watch out and see if that plays out.
Yeah, Nick, when you said buy the rumor, sell the news there, that does happen in crypto a lot, but I definitely understand when it actually does get approved, the respect and the amount of capital that may come in. Of course, there will be people who are happy to, take their profit on Bitcoin from the last 2 years. If they've bought anything in the last 2 years, they've seen price rally, they are probably going to take some profit. But it's a long-term view of things, and I fully appreciate what you're saying there.
Yeah, great. It's the long term, because a lot of people do focus on price a lot. That's also what's really good to talk about in this pod as well, is that Michael Saylor and MicroStrategy got a lot of flack for, buying too high at the top. But then if you look at, 5 years, I'm sure he's not going to be thinking, we bought it, average cost is 34,000. It's at the end of the day, whether it gets 20 or 30, it probably could be semantics if at the end of the day, Bitcoin is this really sovereign, alternative asset out there, whether it's trading in high, triple figures or, 6 figures, whether you got in at 15, 30, even 45, it probably doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. So in this case, sometimes if you're not a trader, focusing too much on it can, actually beat your downfall. I've seen many people make this same mistake.
Yeah, that's right. Just keep things simple, just get a little bit just in case it ends up becoming a sovereign asset. That's what I think. But I think let's move on. So Nick, I know this is probably related to it. We do have a bunch of banks around the world that are still experimenting with Bitcoin, right? They come in and out, they make announcements, and then they get everyone hyped up. So there's been some more banking news in this sector. Who's doing what, and why do we really care about it?
Awesome. So there was, a few major banks, as you talked about. There was one of France's major banks. I will probably butcher this name, but it's Societe Generale. My French is shocking.
General.
Yep. I got blasted when I was in France for my pronunciation, so we can see why. But they issued one of the first green bonds on Ethereum, valued at about $11 million. So this is one of their first examples of using Bitcoin, using Ethereum, which I'm really excited about, to see more banks test out Ethereum and its capabilities and issuing different types of assets on Ethereum. They actually even a few days later issued their own stablecoin as well. In talks to issue a stablecoin, a European and EU denominated stablecoin. So this is one of France's biggest banks, and they've actually in about July this year applied for crypto custody license with all the new regulations that have happened in Europe. Really excited to see things like this. We've even saw in South America, in Brazil, two of their leading banks have partnered with Circle to enable USDC access, while another one launched crypto trading. So lots of these banks starting to get interested in crypto and just continuing to adopt and try out these things.
Yeah, and this is what we're speaking about, the experimentation side of things. So of course, sometimes they try to experiment. Sometimes experiments turn up into failures. And I think we did hear some news, Nick, wasn't there, about another bank or another kind of entity that actually decided to exit crypto entirely. Is that right? Is that what happened?
Yeah, that one was SoFi, which was a US fintech, which provided cryptocurrency services. They've, explained that they, last week, that they plan to, step aside their crypto offerings for the time being, citing a lot of regulatory uncertainty and confusion in the market. So while we see, I think this is actually the story of crypto in the last year or so, where we're seeing firms in the US, are starting to, apply for, ETFs, but there's a lot in the market that are really confused and are stepping back. I know NASDAQ was going to launch a crypto custody service that cited regulatory uncertainty for stepping back. But if we look back and we see in other parts of the world, through France, through Brazil, then also through other parts of Asia, crypto custody, crypto, laws are getting clearer, and banks are, willing to step into this stuff. It's just the US that is really an anomaly here.
And we keep talking about this every week as well. It's about like the geographical arbitrage, and people don't feel safe in America. They'll just go and set up camp in another country where it's a bit more friendly for them, right? So I don't know if SoFi is actually going to leave US entirely and then go and set up somewhere else. But this is a trend that we are seeing in the market. And it just doesn't go for all institutions. It goes for like every crypto protocol. They're just too scared of America. So I think until that actually does get fixed and people feel safe, we may see a continual exodus out of America, which is quite unfortunate. But hey, that's what it's needed for them to get things going again. So let's move on. Matt, I know as we're talking about institutions, there's still some new news about Jamie Dimon. I don't know how to say his name, mate. So he's come out. He's got some really crazy stuff to say. He's always been not so crash hot on Bitcoin. What has he said this time? Or why do we care? Why do we need to listen to this guy?
Yeah, he has been very negative on crypto for a number of years, and has blasted Bitcoin and cryptocurrency last week in a sort of Senate banking committee, saying if he were the government, he would sort of close down, Bitcoin or crypto as a whole. Which he is obviously smart enough to know that, that's, technically not possible, given JPMorgan has been involved in the crypto industry for at least 5 years, maybe even more, particularly in sort of the permissioned blockchain space. Of course, have had a lot of news even this year about, testing different, blockchains and whatnot. Avalanche was one notable one that they tested earlier this year. So yeah, it really contradicts their own, I suppose. And they have their own division in JPMorgan, the Onyx division, which works on blockchain infrastructure and things like that. So I think it was just another reminder that, banks still, or some of them even, don't really, aren't really a fan of these permissionless, cryptocurrencies out there for a number of reasons. And, even agreeing with certain senators in that testimony could have really been a way that they were just trying to express that, hey, we do agree with you, senators. Hey, we're the nice guys, sort of thing. As well, I think that was maybe part of the strategy there. But yeah, it's interesting to see this dynamic continue to go, and different people's beliefs on what their perspective of cryptocurrency is, given their own sort of private interests, given what industry they're in or what their political agenda is, etc., etc.
Yeah, definitely. And this is what we see from biased personnel, people in the crypto industry. They have ulterior motives, and they may not have the best interests, right? Bitcoin goes past the US to the entire globe, so people have to zoom out a little bit. But I want to come back to the first thing he said: shut it down. Now, Matt, you've made it very, very clear there, and I had a little laugh there. Can we really shut down Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blockchain? Is that possible? Can a government possibly do that? Just give me what you think, Matt.
No, it's not. It's not really possible to shut down a blockchain like Bitcoin, especially one that's so big. Potentially, maybe some other smaller blockchains, as possibly. But again, the reasons for that, I wouldn't really know why they do that. But yeah, just to reiterate, they really can't close down like something like Bitcoin. And if they could, they would have done it by now. In my opinion,
That's right.
They would have done it, many years ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really the answer there.
Yeah, awesome, man. Now, let's go to probably one of the most exciting part of the podcast for you listeners out there today. We're going to be talking about airdrops now. So the big question, is airdrop season starting back up again in the crypto market? In Solana, there has been multiple airdrops that has made people thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. So people, if you're not sure what an airdrop is, it is when a cryptocurrency kind of platform or protocol thanks you for being a part of their ecosystem. And they say, Matt or Nick or Leon, you've been here for a year, you've used our platform, thank you very much for sticking around, here's some tokens. That's a general sense of it. Sometimes you have to do some work for them, sometimes, but generally, we want to see who's next in the airdrop list. Matt, Nick, you go. Nick, you tell me first. What are you looking at in the airdrop space? What do you see?
So maybe we can start off with Solana. Solana's a good place to start because we saw the Lido airdrop that commanded what was probably one of the biggest airdrops for especially smaller addresses. And it saw, a lot of people who just staked a small amount of SOL on their platform, were able to get quite a sizable airdrop. So now I'm seeing it in the market. Everyone is now asking, like, how do I get the next, Jito airdrop? How do I get the next Jupiter airdrop, which is another airdrop, which is one of Solana's biggest DeFi application in DEX. So now we're actually looking at some of these that are gaining traction. For example, I think it's Tensor, which is the leading marketplace on Solana, which actually overtook Magic Eden, which was previously the number one. So this is from what I can just see is a lot of people now moving to tokenless platforms and really driving up volumes, which is why we're seeing some of these smaller names start to become leaders in the space. So that's probably one. I know we've got another one that was MarginFi, which a lot of people have been speculating that will airdrop. There's another one, Drift. So these just one or two that I've noticed that probably have, a good 90% chance of airdropping. I'm not sure about you, Leon. You're a big Solana.
Yeah, I'm a big Solana fan myself. So I've been in the ecosystem for a while, and I've been very happy that I've gotten some of these airdrops here. But the one that I think is most likely to actually occur, and this is a bit of consensus, is Camino Finance in the Solana ecosystem. So what that does, it's a concentrated liquidity kind of farm where, it uses Orca on the back end, which has its own token, so don't worry about that, where you can set ranges for your prices, and then you can then just deposit some USDC, $100, for example, and you're able to farm and get a juicy APY. But at the end of the day, I always come back and say, all of these farms, go out farming, tax implications, the time of actually doing all of this and the possible reward that you might get. Sometimes it's just not worth it. And sometimes it's worth it to just go out and have a nice picnic with your family. So that, I am keeping an eye on Solana, not putting too much stock in it, but I know some people really love to do the airdrop farming. So I guess, Matt, what do you see in the airdrop farming space? Maybe not in Solana, maybe somewhere else.
Yeah, the one for me is Eigenlayer. So I think we've been covering this collective shift for, a year and a half now, basically, since it was announced. And that is one that will have a token. And they are upping their sort of parameters. So they've let people sort of deposit ETH to their restaking protocol throughout 2023, and they've progressively lifted the parameters to let more ETH be deposited, more just as a security measure. And they've just recently upped that cap again, so letting people who are holding different liquid staking tokens to deposit them in. And yeah, I expect them eventually to announce sort of an icon layer token and then airdrop it to people who have been helping the protocol, I suppose, the bootstrapping it, really getting it off the ground. So that's one that isn't in the Solana space. But yeah, to your point, I think really it's probably no exaggeration to say that there'll be definitely tens, like maybe 10 to 30 sort of Solana-based airdrops next year. That's definitely within the realms of possibility. It's a big range, I know, but there'll be lots of opportunities. And you said it really well, Leon, in terms of just considering which ones to go after, and the ones you are genuinely interested in is often the best way to go about that. And there's a number of other risks that we highlight in our airdrop sort of guide that we do for members, and that we actively sort of update for members as well, which really helps people get a balanced view of what sort of airdrop farming is as well. And just to talk quickly about the benefits of airdrop season. So airdrop season is really just, a term of like, okay, when is there going to be a period of lots of airdrops for a certain ecosystem? I like to think of airdrop season in relation to just a blockchain itself. So like Solana is definitely having an airdrop season at the moment and will in 2024. And the benefits of that, I think, are hard to sort of overstate. I think it has a really powerful effect on strengthening sort of the community and their sort of support for the broader ecosystem of Solana, because you see a bunch of early Solana users being rewarded for basically just using the Solana blockchain as they sort of naturally were anyway. Yes, there are some, profit-driven people who just use Solana to farm the airdrop, and then they go back it's maybe over to Ethereum, or maybe they just go back and cash it all out for fiat or Australian dollars or US dollars. However, there is a decent amount of people who will use that airdrop and either sell some, take some for taxes, but then they will actually buy either the SOL token, the Solana token, or they'll buy maybe other Solana-based assets such as NFTs, which we've seen the Solana NFTs go triple, double and triple in price in the past month. And I think that is even a reaction as well to people, yes, front-running airdrops, like Nick said, but then I think it's also already an effect of almost a wealth effect, really, of people just their affinity for the Solana ecosystem just strengthening and them just wanting to be a part of the Solana space. So it's an intangible sort of trait or trend, but it's definitely something we saw heavily in Ethereum in 2020 and 2021. And it's something that, I definitely would not be discounting when you're just thinking of assessing different blockchain ecosystems and the success of what airdrop seasons, can really result in.
Yeah, that's all very important to consider. But at the end of the day as well, you please also, all you listeners out there, please consider, as I said, the time, but also the amount of scams there might be. As Matt said, there's maybe 30, 20 or so on Solana. A few of them will be people trying to steal your money from you. Okay, so be very, very cautious with the ones you end up connecting your wallet to, approving your transaction, and making sure that at least you're protecting your capital. Use a burner wallet for just for some safety. Have a look at our airdrop guide. We've got some little risks and considerations you should look out for. Just time, cost, legal issues, and just scams. Okay, people. Easy money is a great way to try and sucker someone in.
Yeah.
So
Leon, just for one there as well. The number one I always recommend people is just making sure that whatever you do, especially when you're testing out some riskier ones, making sure a lot of your crypto is not connected in any way to that viral hot wallet, because that's the number one way people get drained and lose a lot of money in crypto, is just via using some of this riskier stuff, trying to get an airdrop, but forgetting that, they have a lot of money in another online wallet or on your computer, that's tied. And unfortunately, it can just be too easy to fall victim to these things, especially when the FOMO is so strong, when you're seeing people, making threads on Twitter telling you these are the next ones to do, to make X amount of money. So really tough out there. I know just two more probably to talk about is Starknet. They kind of had their airdrop stuff leaked the last couple of days. So they've come out and proactively announced that they're going to be doing an airdrop in some way and tokenize, as we have known for the last year or so. Also, Layer Zero, they're another crypto platform blockchain that is going to tokenize and has talked about their tokenization in the last couple of days. So as well, if you're looking into this stuff, probably steer clear of some of these more really bigger platforms that are out there, because no doubt, they have a snapshot, which is when they go to distribute tokens. It's whenever you've used the platform by a certain date. I feel like a lot of these will have already taken those snapshots and they're actively filtering out anybody who is just using it to try and get the airdrop. So
that's right. You have to have been using it before the season has started. You have to be already there. Yeah. Awesome, man. So that's good info. If you've got any other questions, if you're a listener and you want to talk about airdrops, come to the Collective Shift platform, have a look at the guide, and the bottom right corner, there's an intercom section. You can chat to someone from the team about your airdrops that you may be interested in. So, gentlemen, let's move on to the last section of our podcast today, where we look at things that we found in the news cycle that we either appreciated a lot or we think people didn't appreciate as much. So, Matt, I think you go first, mate. What did you find in the market that you think people need to know?
Yeah, one was Synthetics this week. They've got a big December with their Andromeda release, part of their V3 and whatnot, which we've been covering for members earlier this year. But then also as a part of that launch, they're now sort of proposing to end the token, the inflation. So SNX has always been inflationary. It sort of was a big reason back in 2019 and 2020. Synthetics had such a big success because you needed to stake SNX to be able to capture some of that token inflation. And as the years have gone by, it's become less sort of necessary. But now they are actually voting on removing it completely. And currently the vote is active and it looks like it will pass. So it's just it's a good example, I think, of how tokens can have value because of the utility in the form of governance. So here the SNX holders are actually all voting together on what to do about inflation. And it's also just a sign of a protocol sort of maturing, and now it actually has the chance to become deflationary, particularly after this Andromeda release. There is likely going to be some, I guess, implications of activity, particularly on the base chain, which makes SNX become deflationary, which would be a powerful narrative and a powerful thing that gets communicated amongst the community and would potentially drive up interest in the SNX token as well. So yeah, a good example I wanted to sort of give some time to this week.
Yeah, Matt, thank you very much. I own some SNX and I didn't actually know this was happening. So that tells me that I'm not keeping on track of my own coins. So thank you very much, man. I need to go look at this and research. Nick, what did you find in the market and what did you think people need to know about this week?
I saw the Jack Dorsey news finally unveiling their Bitcoin self-custody wallet. So this was something that's been in the works for more than a year now, and Jack, their fintech company, Block, unveiled this under their banner. So I think it is starting off at $150 US dollars, that is. And the idea is that it's going to make it easy for you to store your Bitcoin on your hardware wallet safely. So you'll be able to go to an exchange and easily, even if you want to DCA into crypto, then it automatically withdraws into the wallet. So you have a lot better functionality, and hopefully it removes some barriers to entry to those who want to just self-custody their own Bitcoin. So this is probably something that I'll probably get, because I love collecting my crypto toys to look at, even though we might look back in 10 years and see their first foray into a Bitcoin hardware wallet. I can't get enough of the stuff, and really curious to see what the appetite is for this type of product by Block.
Yeah, awesome, man. That sounds like really great news. If you end up loving it a lot, come on the podcast and let the rest of the membership know. That's awesome. And then my thing, what I saw this week was just something quite small. It was a little article that I saw by Cointelegraph where someone had submitted a vulnerability to the US National Vulnerability Database. Now, just some nuance on this. It is a bit complicated here, but it's not the US who submitted this. It could have been a Bitcoin developer. They basically flagged Bitcoin's inscriptions as a cybersecurity risk. Now, inscriptions are kind of like the NFTs on Bitcoin. Inscription involves like just putting additional data onto a specific Satoshi, which is a denomination of a Bitcoin, making it like a permanent part of the blockchain. So it's still in analysis. It is very interesting. It brought to mind just a debate of like, is this really a vulnerability or is this a feature? Because there is a lot of debate at the moment about code is law or not. It's interesting stuff. I'll just wait until the entire blockchain is actually deemed by a threat by the US security services. Then it's free reign. Then it's shenanigans. I just thought it was very interesting that someone submitted it as a vulnerability.
There's a lot of debate in that space as well, Leon, whether you have a camp that think inscriptions are good for Bitcoin because it drives up fees and usage, but then there's a big camp of a real OG Bitcoiners who think it's just basically spam and like you get junk mail.
It's not what it's for. That's right. Exactly. But that's the thing, right? It's an open and free network. People can come and do what they want on the blockchain, and you can't stop them because it's an open and free network. And of course, this gonna be a little bit heated. But at the end of the day, it's okay. We love Bitcoin anyway, and we'd rather do with it than without it. So yeah, let's look to end the podcast, my friends. That's a wrap for this week. If you're looking for more insights, please make sure you check out the revamped Weekly Shift newsletter. Provides free weekly market insights every Friday. Subscribe at collectiveshift.io/newsletter. That's collectiveshift.io/newsletter. We will see you again next week, my friends. Bye for now.